Hello! I told you we would be back already with another review, and hey, we are here with Mortal Engines. I was so looking forward to this film. I'm a bit of a steampunk kind of guy. This looked like a steampunk movie.
And sure enough, it is.
Yeah, and I had never read the novels, mostly because they're very British. And sometimes certain things just don't cross over here, like certain pop music doesn't cross over television shows, and also novels. So this one I don't think I've ever had a chance to read, but just from trailers alone, I was like, alright, I'm interested and curious what in the world this was. What was the story of this world? How did it come to be? But before I give you my opinions, I want to let the Megan give her opinions on what she thought about Mortal Engines.
Want to know.
Well, what did you think of Mortal Engines?
I'm sorry, honey. It was boring.
Megan thinks it's boring because she slept through almost the entire movie.
I didn't sleep through the entire thing. Just
85%.
no, just a couple parts.
40 minutes.
Mostly just the big fight at the end because it went on too long, and by the time
Because it went longer than 5 seconds. Megan's like, worst fight scene ever.
I freaking didn't care, and there's like way too many action scenes peppered throughout the movie. It's like, okay, I don't care at this point. I'm sorry.
Because Megan slept through.
And also, I don't like steampunk. I didn't sleep through the entire thing.
Like 45 minutes at least. There's points you're snoring, which I don't get, because I'm gonna be honest, this movie's actually really damn good. Those who like the steampunk,
I was saying you like steampunk.
Those who like the steampunk aesthetic are going to love this movie just on the pure aesthetics alone. It is a very visually beautiful movie. It looks really damn good. Everything looks fantastic. Set piece moments look wonderful. It's colorful. That is one thing I cannot praise enough for this movie. It has color. So many times most steampunk stuff goes for just simple bronze and silver or grays. This, there are blues, there's greens, there's purples, there's reds. There's all these just different colors constantly coming together on top of your normal bronzes, your silvers, your grays, and stuff like that. And it made this world feel a lot more vivid. It made it feel much more alive than it needed to be. Because to be fair, they could have phoned this in. I would not know. Also, to let y'all know, I don't know how accurate this is to the novels that these are based on. I know this is supposed to be like the part 1 and 2 of a book, though from what I've heard, it's like really part 1 and 2 could have been made in one movie. Though it does feel like there's certain bits they had to kind of combine here and there, and because there's certain moments that kind of, it's like, okay, like the first bit of this movie is just them throwing out the words they use a lot, and you're just like, hold up, hold the fucking phone, what is going on, what is this, why is this happening? And to be honest, that could be a problem if you don't want to stick with the movie. And I think that's what Megan might have had. She didn't really want to stick with it, and because of that, because it's constant throwing at it, when they finally do give you exposition, or actual explanations, not even exposition, for why and what the hell is going on, it's a little bit later on in the movie. But if you're like me,
yeah, by the time we got around to it, I was like, I'm to the point I don't care.
Yeah, and I can understand that if you fall asleep a lot during the movie.
Only a couple times, I keep telling you.
Like I said, you were snoring a number of times, so. But either way, why I think that it still works despite that is because, 1, Hunger Games did that. 2, Divergent did that. Though Divergent did it in a much crappier way because it still didn't explain anything. You name me a post-apocalyptic young adult story, they did it. Darkest Minds even did it. And Darkest Minds was a lot shittier about it because it also made a lot less sense. This one pretty much this is a post-apocalyptic film. That's one of the things I was actually kind of like, oh, okay. But I actually kind of grooved with it a lot because of that. Because it explains why it all happened. And to be fair, it's what exactly you think. It's our own stupid follies because we're dumb people. Pretty much we caused it as a society. We invented a weapon that pretty much annihilated just everything.
Yeah, they kind of explained that within the first, 15, 20 minutes?
I'd say the first, 30 minutes. Or so they kind of touch upon this weapon's called the Medusa. Though they kind of explain why it gets that name, I believe, and it's kind of like, oh, okay. But beyond that, you do actually have these different characters who at first, they feel a little separate in ways that doesn't always work well. There is Hester Shaw. She is your main lead. She's your badass woman. She is your Katniss Everdeen. Though she, I think, has a lot more personality than Katniss in the first movie. Let's just be honest. I love the Hunger Games movies. Katniss is kind of a boring character for a bit. She is. In the movie, she's utterly forgettable. You barely remember that Katniss is your main character for a lot. You're like, oh, yeah, the person who doesn't have emotions. Yeah, that's my main character. Cool. Why can't Peeta be my main character? Because he kind of has emotions here. Katniss just seems to be there and looks like she's really, really bored. Sorry, one of the worst Jennifer Lawrence ever acting. I don't get it. In the first Hunger Game movie, she looks like she is so, I volunteer as tribute, blah. I like the Hunger Games movies. I actually do. But, sorry, Jennifer Lawrence phones it in really hard in that first movie.
Says the guy who likes steampunk.
What does that do, shit?
Shows you have no taste.
But I can judge what is good or not. I can tell that, hey, this is bad acting. This is bad acting. And I will say that that's another thing that you're going to have to accept with this movie. The acting can be sometimes a little hammy. But most of that hamminess is coming from the master of ham, I believe, Hugo Weaving. He's your main villain, of course, and he is this twirly mustache villain. And I know I kind of bag on that trope, but it's only whenever it's done in movies where the story really takes itself very seriously. This is a movie about a giant recreation of London on top of a giant tank, in all essence, that goes around eating other towns. How are you going to take that seriously? It's okay for it to be a bit silly. So I'm okay with a twirly mustache evil villain in this case. And to be fair, he really does work. He's obviously evil. And it's delightful, because it's also Hugo Weaving. I love seeing Hugo Weaving and stuff. Like, you would not complain if this was Jason Isaac. Because Jason Isaac also plays a wonderful twirly mustache villain. Or if it was Ray Fiennes.
Ray Fiennes, I have no opinion really whatsoever.
Voldemort?
Well, I know, but, other than, Harry Potter, I haven't really seen him in much. I was like, okay, I really have no opinion on him one way or another, but... Huh?
Cornwallis. Though he wasn't the villain, he was actually the main character, though he was sort of the villain, but it wasn't. Cornwallis is a weird movie if you ever had a chance to watch it. Watch it, it's a great movie that he directed, it's very Shakespearean.
Yeah, haven't seen it.
You're missing. There's also, again, he's a Nazi. He's from Schindler's List. He's the evil Nazi in that. Yeah, he's the main bad guy in Schindler's List.
I have never seen Schindler's List.
Huh. I gotta say, pardon me, sorry. Took a funny breath there.
I have no opinion one way or another. I have no problem with Hugo Weaving as a villain. It's that...
What I mean is, the acting in this, I'm allowing it to be a bit hammy and sometimes a little over the top. Though I will say...
It's he was fine. I would just say, his motivation was okay, it's kind of been there, done that. It's...
It's a young adult novel.
Yeah.
Hunger Games. What is their motivation? Power. Divergent. Power. Twilight. Power. Control, technically. The Maze Runner. Power. Darkest Mind. Power. All of the young adults, every young adult story
it's not
has
so
it.
much power. It's just, first of all, resources first, people.
And power.
And second of all, it's like, oh, stop looking on the past. We need to look to the future. The future is where it's at. It's like, okay, whatever, everything. He made a big spiel to that one guy about, it's like, oh, you're living in the past. This
He
is the
means
future.
that we need to start being more proactive about going after things. Because eventually they need to, or they decide to go after this thing. It's called the Shield Wall. It's this massive fucking fortress. It's just bristling with guns and shit. And it has an air fleet that no other tracked city has been able to conquer through. And it's actually kind of cool whenever you see the whole... I don't know. To me, the fight sequence was fun because you got to see... How's the best way to describe this? Those who have ever played the game... Oh, shit, what's it called? This is going to bother me. It's not Red Baron. I can't remember what it's called, but it used to be on the Xbox. Here, vamp for me. Vamp for me, woman! Oh, no vamping?
Are you talking about Red Dead Redemption?
No, woman. No, it's a...
What?
No, it's a fighter game.
What? I have no idea what
Vamp for me. Vamp for me.
I have no idea what...
Vamp for me. Just vamp.
What? Yeah, maybe could have, done this beforehand.
Complain about something that you complained about earlier that didn't make any sense.
What the fuck?
Complain about something that you complained about earlier.
Thanks for putting me on the spot, honey.
You're welcome.
But I'm gonna smack you in that, I swear. Yes, even listening to you recap the movie, I'm starting to fall asleep. Just even listening, it's like, and I watched the damn thing.
Damn, I can't remember the name of this movie, and I know everybody's... You might watch this like, Crimson Skies! That's what I was thinking of. Damn, I don't know why I couldn't think of that. Sorry. Sorry, y'all. I wanted her to vamp, but she could not vamp.
I'm not good at improvisation. That's my theater teachers.
Those who've ever played Crimson Skies knows exactly what I'm talking about here. This final fight sequence feels exactly like a Crimson Skies battle sequence. And Crimson Skies is the bee's knees. It's just one of the better fighters that's ever been out there with a story that makes sense, unlike most Ace Combat games. I like Ace Combat. I love the fighting. Yeah, I just think the stories don't make a lick of damn sense, especially the sixth one, where I was like, what does this lady do with anything? Why do I care? Why is there a war? What does it do with 6 through 1? What does that have to do with anything? But Crimson Skies actually has a story. And also it has a steampunk element and everything that is legitimately really, really cool. That I think worked a lot. This very much has that. And because of that, I love this movie. I cannot help it, y'all. I should be more of a critic about it, but I've always said I am a film whore. I fully will admit that there's sometimes some movies will just hit that perfect spot for me that I'll be able to forgive a lot more of its plot elements. Is the story been there, done that? Yes, all young adult stories have been. Name me one that doesn't have the main villain is after power and control. You can't. That's the biggest problem. To stay away from the tropes would be having to rewrite how young adult stories are. And if you have a young adult story that isn't about power and control, it's boring at best. Take the first Twilight movie. It's not about power and control. It's about a creepy romance between a 100-year-old guy and a 17-year-old girl. Actually, I'm sorry, 16-year-old girl. Take Blood and Chocolate. It's a movie about a werewolf that falls in love with a dude who has absolutely no personality. It's not about power and control, but it's also boring as shit. This works for me in so many ways. The acting can be a bit on the hammy side, but damn if it does not look the part. Hell, people are grimy. People are dirty. Like, I don't know why. I noticed this at one point, like whenever Hester is talking with Tom. It's this guy who's from London. I haven't really been able to touch on him very much because I'm just shoving this movie's dick in my mouth. I can't help it. But Tom is a pretty much archaeologist. He's really into old tech, as they call it. And you learn that the world has pretty much been destroyed for over 1,000 years. Not really too surprising, you know. Humanity likes to figure out ways we can really screw ourselves as much as humanly possible. We're cool like that. But him and Hester have a bit of a moment. And I will say they actually kind of have some chemistry. Though I'm thankful they never went the full part of like, oh, they love each other much beyond something that this one Terminator humanoid robot does. Or says at one point. It sounded a lot like Willem Dafoe, and it turns out it's Stephen Lang. Oh, that part was kind of silly a little bit. But again, it works. I'm watching a steampunk movie. What other steampunk movies are even out there?
Mercifully, very few.
But that's the problem. There are so few actual steampunk movies, if any, that I can even think of off the top of my head. And that's a problem. I mean, if we say, oh, we need another Arrow, we need another Marvel superhero film. I love the Marvel superhero movies, don't get me wrong. Or we say we need another young adult post-apocalyptic world just died because of something. Who knows why? But it's the same, oh, well, it's dirty, but they happen to have their hair perfectly done. They have their makeup all done. I don't give two flying shits. Here, the people look dirty. They look grimy. Like I was even saying, like at one point, Hester and Tom are talking to each other, and their fingernails, I noticed, were filthy. It looked like they'd been fingering each other in the butt for an hour. Sorry, it's a gross image, but I don't know why. It's like that little touch, along with the fact they just constantly look grimy. Everybody looks dirty. It worked. It's like, thank you, movie. Thank you for finally giving me this aesthetic with a story that I can actually somewhat give a shit about. And that's the thing. Is like, I can get behind the story because, again, I got behind it with Hunger Games. It's a simplistic story. I mean, tell me the Hunger Games aren't a simplistic story. They fucking are. I love the movies. I mean, you have to realize that there is a point where a movie has to hold itself up more than just running on the fact that it's a young adult post-apocalyptic movie. I can make you 85 of those in a day, and they're all going to look and sound exactly the same. There has to be some spice here, and this has that perfect spice, which is the world. And also the characters. They're actually, I kind of gave a shit about a lot of them. I couldn't help it. Like I said, I filleted this movie. I can't help it. Megan just doesn't have taste. I mean, she wants to marry this for some reason. So.
It shows my tastes are awesome. You, on the other hand, your tastes leave a lot to be desired. I mean, considering you're wanting to marry this.
Yeah, exactly. My tastes are fantastic. Everyone agrees. But, again, it's like, really your issue seems to stem a lot from, oh, this is a steampunk movie. I don't like steampunk. Why?
Well, I went in with open minds, like, okay, maybe it'll be decent. But
it was more than decent.
Glad you like it, because someone's got to.
A lot of people probably liked it, because a lot of people or not a lot of people, but quite a few people saw it. Well, they did. You can't help it, even if you just stare at me.
Just because someone saw it just doesn't mean they liked it. I mean, I saw it and I didn't like it.
Yeah, but again, you have zero taste. You like Ferngully, for crying out loud. And Ferngully's a massive turd.
Don't be knocking Ferngully.
I'm gonna knock the shit out of Ferngully. Ferngully deserves as many knocks as it can get. I mean, it's up there with Batman and Robin as one of the worst movies from the 90s. At least Batman and Robin is watchable. Ferngully is, I want to put a gun in my mouth and pull the trigger 8 times. Don't know how you get that far, but you know.
Something heavy.
But yeah, I can't help it. I really love this movie. I know I'm not always the best critic. I really liked the new Mummy movie. I liked Ghost in the Shell. But if you are like me, you have been wanting a steampunk movie. Or hell, you've been wanting a young adult based series that is post-apocalyptic, or it doesn't even, because realistically, beyond the fact that they mention there's old tech and it's, you know, stuff from that we use nowadays, beyond that, there is no connection to the modern world. This could almost be set in a different era. If you just want a good steampunk movie, or a good movie just that has a, it's fun. It's an adventure.
I'm sorry, good steampunk. That seems an oxymoron to me.
Name me one thing bad about steampunk.
One, it's boring. Two, it's
How is steampunk
monochromatic color scheme usually.
Exactly, and this movie is not. It's so colorful.
Even if this is the exception to the rule,
That's the thing. If this does become a big enough hit, this becomes a big enough draw for everything, we can begin to add more color to steampunk. We can actually make it as colorful as it should be. More greens, more blues, more reds. I mean, I know it's RGB. You know, what purples then to it. You can add some yellows. You can add so many different colors to it. This movie is pushing in the right direction for steampunk. It's making, I know some people are like, oh, it's making it more acceptable to other people. Yes and no, because it's a little opaque in its own ways, which is something I'm fine with. I'm fine with some of the silly elements. I'm fine with the fact that I'm pretty sure science in this movie does not work worth a shit. I'm fine with the fact there's a Terminator bot that somehow lives through magic.
Yeah, they're resurrected.
And I don't know what powers them. They could be a nuclear core for all we know.
Yeah, it never really explains. Like, pretty much they're humans, but they're, like, put into...
Their souls are...
Put into, like, mechanical bodies.
Yeah.
Like,
that's fine. I don't need an explanation for that. Why do I need... Do you want to know the inner workings of a Terminator? I sure as shit don't. Do you think I care about how their processors work? Nope. There are not enough fucks that this gives about a Terminator and how it works. I like that it's a robot and it punches people really hard. It's like, do you want to know the inner workings of how Superman's power works?
To be very, like, it's trying to be very science-based, and yet there seems to be the implication of magic.
Not exactly. It's more of their memories and all that. Probably more dealing with brain transfers or something like that. Or memory transfers. That is something that actually is based in science. Yeah, they're actually trying to learn how to even store dreams nowadays. I seen the...
Now, I think this weird-ass movie I saw as a kid. Don't even know what the hell the name of it is, what the hell it was really about, or even who's in it. It's just, I vaguely remember it. It's just weird.
I don't know, folks. I don't tell you about her. So, what do you give this movie, though, despite the fact you slept through over half of it?
I did not sleep through over half of it. I slept through a couple parts, mostly the big fight scene, which I'm sorry, drug on
Looks
too
so
long.
much like Crimson Skies. It's so
drug
fun.
on way too long.
Yeah, it drags on too long, man. He's like, how dare this last longer than a second?
It's like, the movie itself was like, what, 2 hours, 2.5 hours, something like that?
2 hours and 50 minutes. Actually, I'd probably say almost right on 2 hours.
Yeah, no, it's like, can we end
How
this
dare
up?
we have
Yeah.
fights?
No, it wasn't that. It was just like, okay, first of all, there's, fights and action scenes peppered throughout the movie. It's like, okay, by the time you get to this big fight scene, It's like, okay, y'all have already worn me out with that shit. I don't give a fuck. I'm sorry, I don't.
Did you like The Hobbit and the Battle of the Five Armies?
I really don't remember much about that movie.
Because I was about to say, that movie is far worse in terms of fight sequences. That movie is a giant clusterfuck of fight sequences. Even Peter Jackson thinks of it that way. And this movie's so much better. Because it's not.
You wouldn't think so.
I know so. Like I said, she just doesn't like action.
It's not that I don't like action. It's like just all these like little action sequences and fight sequences. Like, okay, it's like, so this is the big conflict, you know. This, it's like they're about to, you know, fight and then it's gonna end. And it's like, okay, no, I guess not.
They did.
And like, and then finally
they
gets
used
that
the big
okay.
Death Star weapon, blew the crap out of stuff. Then they had the last little vestige
then they
of the
finally
fighters.
got to the big fight scene. It's like, okay, that's it. I'm done. I don't care anymore. It's like, just end already. I did not enjoy this. I hate steampunk. I'm sorry.
Why?
I just.
It's not. This wasn't even monochromatic. It was so colorful.
Well, it's just like it's Victorian, like you know, steampunk. It's Victorian, but with an emphasis on the mechanical, and it's just the mechanical doesn't really.
It helps to clash against each one. It looks so cool. It looks really, really fucking neat.
I was like, I barely have an interest in the Victorian, and even then, it's been more into like the horror part of it.
Yeah,
I just like the mechanical. It's like I just find it's like, okay, don't really care. I mean, it's interesting in movies like
League of Extraordinary Gentlemen that you really like.
Well, that wasn't really steampunk.
That was very steampunk.
It had maybe some elements of steampunk, but it wasn't.
You had dudes that drove around tanks in the. Technically, I think that was late Edwardian, but you know, I'm not big on my time periods. Starts talking about princes and kings and their bullshit. I don't care that much, guys. Or it might have been very late Victorian, but still, I mean, you have very much it's steampunk. Even more extreme almost. And I will say, people shit on League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. I think it's an alright movie. The acting's terrible in the movie. I fully admit it. It's Sean Connery is asleep in that movie. But I enjoy the hell out of it for what it is. And I love the aesthetic of the film, personally. You know, the CGI looks like shit nowadays. See the car outside. Have y'all even heard that? Vroom. But yeah, I don't...
It's like... First of all, like, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, it's like, it's got elements of steampunk, but to me, it's not a steampunk movie, really.
Except for, you know, when they go with Captain Nemo under the sea.
It's more about, like, these, you know, classic literature characters. And
Captain Nemo is a steampunk-based character. Pretty much the progenitor of steampunk, H.G. Wells.
Let me talk. You let me finish my thought, finish what I'm saying. But I don't mind in, like, say, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, or, you know, even the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes movies.
That's all steampunk. That's just,
well, I'm not saying that it's steampunk. I'm just saying, like, it's Victorian with, like, these kind of hints of, you know, technology of, oh, you know, someday we humans will be able to fly great distances, or something kind of like, little, like, hints and nods of, you know, future technology. Little, like, you know, in jokes. I don't mind that as far as technology. I don't give two shits about steampunk, though. About the mechanical, about, like...
I don't know what she's even talking about, y'all. I don't think I could drink enough booze to understand what she's talking about. Because I'm just sitting
there,
like...
You're not allowed to, anyway.
I'm like... What? Maybe just enough taste, okay. So.
Like, little hints of technology, like... But the whole, like... Oh, let's invent this entirely new, like, mechanical person, or have this big mechanical spider in Wild Wild West, because Kevin Smith wanted to have a giant spider in the Superman film that he never got to do.
You realize Kevin Smith did not direct that movie, right?
Why not he was waiting to, like, that idea eventually went into Wild Wild West.
He did not put that into Wild Wild West.
He put that out there for someone, and they like, okay, well, let's use it here.
Yeah, I was about to say, Wild Wild West is probably the most steampunk movie that there is, technically. I personally kind of like Wild Wild West. It's a piece of crap.
I like it too. I like it for the comedy, for, Will Smith and Kevin Kline.
That's Kevin Kline.
Yeah, and Kevin Kline just, like, playing off each other, just being doofy and...
Will Smith is clearly not wanting to be in the movie at all. This is look almost the entire movie.
Like, not impressed with white people.
Fucking white people.
Had enough of our white people shit.
I have had enough of us white people shit, too.
I've had enough of people shit. I don't care, white or black, whatever.
Yeah, like, that's the best, I think, technically, steampunk movie before this came out. And this blows it out of the water.
Of course, you just
so
like,
much better.
Don't you just hate that song?
But like I said, go watch this. If you are a fan of adventure,
yeah, done ratings.
Movie. Oh, I'm about to. Keep your panties on while you're stepping all over me.
We usually do the ratings and then you say, it's like, okay, go see it.
Well, I'm saying, go see this.
There is an order to everything.
There's no order. There's no order to any of this shit. It isn't even scripted.
I'm saying, it's like, there is an order. It's like, otherwise it's chaos.
I don't know what the fuck she's on about, people. She acts like I actually have some purpose to any of all this. But no, go see this movie. This is the best movie that's come out in like 3 months, y'all. And more importantly, it's actually fun. It's not Venom levels of we don't know what we're doing, and it's not absolutely aggravating in terms of its, characters like Darkest Minds was. Like, oh, cool. I like none of these characters. They're all assholes. And on top of that, it looks pretty. It's such a pretty movie. No, you're not getting me. You're like, oh, it's steampunk. Ugh. 0 stars. This doesn't look like it's 100% of a steampunk movie. It looks like pretty much... It looks like Salvador Dali's, imagination finally came to life. Just there's whimsy here. There's different stuff here. There's so many different vibrant colors. And I'm like, oh, thank you. Thank you. Y'all made a genre come to life. That's the thing. And that is the biggest good thing I can say about this movie. This made a genre come to life. It brought it full to us. Like, are we eventually going to get movies that are going to make this look like a big piece of crap? I'm pretty sure we are. I have no doubt. But we need to get to that stepping stone before we finally get to it. I believe. So, what do you give this score, or what do you give this movie in terms of score, even though, points don't matter?
Well, my points don't matter and yours don't either.
I'm saying they don't. I'm saying nobody's points matter.
Yeah, shouldn't come to anybody. Come as a surprise to anybody by now, but 1.
This is a 9. This is one of the...
a 10.
No, it's still got its problems. I mean, the story has its weird pacing issues here and there that kind of bother me as a bit of a film critic here and there. And there is some of the acting where I'm like, alright, let's bunch it up. Let's do that line one more time. Oh, okay, never mind. We just had to shoot. But the action sequences, actually, you could pay attention to what the hell was going on. Oh my god, am I so tired of having action sequences there right in their freaking eyeballs, so all I see is a glint of a sword here and there. I'm like, okay, well, something's happening, I think. And on top of it, you have a world that's fully fleshed out and fully realized. You don't have, which I'm going to keep picking on Hunger Games. That world wasn't fully fleshed out and realized until you read the book. And that is the thing I can also say here. I understood what the hell was going on without having to read a book. Hunger Games, I would not say I would have been able to understand a single thing that was going on in that movie if I hadn't read the book first. Percy Jackson and Tale of the Lightning Thief, I barely understood what the hell was going on, and also it had nothing to do with the book. And Divergent is nothing like its book and has nothing at all going on in it, strangely enough, compared to the book. So, yeah, this is a 9. Go see this movie. It's actually fucking good. It's much better than this one keeps saying because she has no taste. I keep telling y'all. And this isn't one like, oh, well, if you like this and this and this and this, then you can go see it. No, go see it. It's actually worth your time. Because even though Megan hates anything steampunk, because she hates different, she hates black people, white people, green people, every people. Well, she hates all things.
My hatred of human beings has nothing to do with my hatred of...
Because somebody created steampunk, and steampunk depends upon people them for... It's
all about machines and mechanical and fire and brimstone.
It's not about fire and brimstone at all. It's actually more about coal.
Well,
and steam.
What I'm saying, coal.
No!
Coal,
fire and brimstone
fire.
Is hell, first off.
I know, I'm just saying, it's like, it's
she has
coal
no point
and
to any
fire
of all
and
this.
steam, and it's just, it's like, okay, well, we're polluting the planet anymore.
Yeah, so who cares? It fixes itself. It's like the human body. It has its own kidneys. No, not saying. Yeah, like I said, this is actually...
Steampunk is not really my scene. It's just...
Megan doesn't like people. She doesn't like movies. She likes the shittiest movies there are. Why do you think she actually cared about Incredibles 2? One of the worst movies that's come out this year. No,
you need to keep something heavy
just
nearby for me to throw at you.
Just to end this, without Megan shaking her head constantly at me. Like I said, the reason why I say go see this is not just because, oh, we'll just try and make this popular, but because this is actually something different. This is not your, oh, post-apocalyptic, it looks like everything's actually kind of fine. This isn't your average movie where it feels like they put 5 seconds of effort. You see the effort on screen so much, and you actually feel like the filmmakers tried to put out a fantastic product. And trust me, it shows. And go see it. It's worth your time. It's worth your money. But hey, we get to go see something else soon. Maybe tonight. We'll see how it goes. But we should have with y'all Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse soon. That's been one of my fingers look like spiders almost. So, until then, everybody, go see Mortal Engines. And hey, maybe go see Spider-Man Into Spider-Verse as well. So, bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.